figure it out.
We can pull it out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
I mean, so it's not really physics, so don't get thrown when I say vector. But yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Okay, with that, I think we are kind of streaming now. So all yours, Jyoti. Thanks.
Thanks, Neil. All right. So yeah, so welcome to day 7 of the Martin Gardner on games reading. We're going to discuss 3 games, apparently not in this order. The first of these, okay, so it's called Simp Chump and Racetrack, and yet in the article he's going to start with Racetrack, and so am I. So I do want to give a shout out to in the beginning of this. Gardner refers to Sid Sackson. Sid Sackson is probably one of the greatest game designers, perhaps, of that era. And he's made quite a large number of games. So there's a game called Acquire, for instance, that came out in the late 50s. And it's still a wonderful game today. So if you've not seen Sid Sackson's games, I recommend that you take a look. A Gamut of Games also is a fun read. Yeah, but anyway, so with that, let's get back to the paper because. All right, so Racetrack is a pen and paper game in which, well, as many as you like, but let's say 2 to 4 cars are racing around a track. So this oddly shaped, something that looks. This is supposed to be a racetrack. It doesn't have to be. You can make it as even as you like. You can draw anything you like here. And there's no dice roll, no to determine how these cars move. There's some certain set rules, which I'm going to try to explain. So it's played on a dotted grid. So let's forget about the boundary of the track for a minute and just let's talk about how a car can move. So cars start, I don't know if it's apparent, I think my circles seem to have moved a little from the grids, but you start on one of these grid points. And from a grid point, you can move. So in the beginning, you're starting from rest. So you can move only a single step in any direction. Okay, so the way a car moves, so you take turns moving. So the 2 cars or however many cars you'd like, take turns moving. And whatever move they may have made in the previous round, on the next turn, they can either copy that exact direction, which is sort of akin to traveling at a constant velocity. Or what you can do is you can modify it by a unit in either direction. Okay, so basically a car starting from here, wrong color. A car starting from here can move to any one of these 9 grid points. Okay, so either you can copy your previous move or you can move to one of the 9 points around the point you'd have ended up if you copied your previous move. I'm going to run us through a sample game anyway. So to see if that made any sense, let's say we started here. Okay, so if we had done this, does anybody want to take a guess? If I were to copy this, so this is 2 steps right, 1 step up. So I could do the exact same thing, which is to say I could move there, or I could move to any one of the 9 points around it. Maybe I choose to do that. Okay, so the aim is try to run around this racetrack without crashing into another car or into the boundary of the track. Okay, so I'm going to try to run us through. So for example, perhaps on the first turn, red moves. Again, you're starting from rest, so you're one step from what you had done before, but now you haven't moved yet. So red opts to go 1 step down, blue perhaps goes 1 to the right. Now red is allowed to do one more step down, but red decides to get a little ambitious and accelerates a bit to move 2 steps down. Blue does something. Now what can red do? If red were to copy this, of course, red would go off the track, Luckily for red, they can modify by 1 to stay within the track. I guess I don't know if this made any sense. If not, I'm hoping someone will stop me and ask a question.
So the initial move, so the diagonal is also allowed.
Hold on. So you mean from rest?
Yeah, from rest. You said any direction, so that includes, is that the 4 neighbors or all the?
So yeah. So you're asking, could that? Well,
Right.
yes, I suppose so, because it's from 0, modify by any, you could move to any of these 9 spots.
Oh, except the one outside the racetrack, but not.
Exactly. Not where you're currently standing, not outside the track, which would sort of preclude that one and that one and that one. And I don't know, I guess this one is just, so this one here is just mildly within the track. So you could go here, I guess. Except if you move the 1 step down, you might find yourself a little bit short of options. Yes, you might want to go there maybe.
Oh, so you can, okay, the other question I had was if you could stay still, and in some moves you can effectively by pulling back, is that right?
Oh, well, okay, so can you stay still? Well, you probably wouldn't want to because it's a race. I'll show you a situation where you're going to have to, right? So yes, it is true that you could opt not to do anything, but then you'd basically
avoid a crash or something. I don't know, depending on.
Yeah, exactly. So after a crash, okay, so let me talk about a crash now. It seems like
can you go back to the previous slide where you had?
Sure. This one?
So what you're doing, if I understand, is I mean, you have already made the first move. For the second move, you make the copy, and around that copied node, you have, you're placing a 2x2 grid around it.
Exactly correct.
Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, and you can go to any of those things.
Sorry, so you're going 1 step in every possible direction around. So 2x2 is what you end up with. This is true.
Yeah. So it is symmetric around that. So
exactly.
It's as if the new point that you could have gone to if you copied the move.
Exactly.
Now that behaves like the origin.
Exactly.
You have.
Sorry, go ahead. Hello.
Yeah. No, I think I understand what the moves should look like.
Okay, nice. I know, I think I really like let me talk about the basic game, and then I'll talk about what you can do with this. It's kind of fascinating. He talks about, let's have oil slicks, which you have to navigate by going at a constant speed. So you can do a lot of fun stuff with just paper and pencil. And I look forward to trying this out with some, I was going to say children, but probably not children, just anybody, I guess. Okay, so what happens, supposing, for instance, that red had not been wise and had actually tried to go out here. That's a crash. So when a crash happens, first thing that you do is you move to the closest space inside the track. So this circle would have to be dragged back into the track. And now it's as if you were starting from rest. So essentially, the next step that you can make is a single step to any of the 9 points allowed, but only the ones that are within the track. So I would have to again get rid of any points that would take me outside the track. So yeah, Sunil, so if the do nothing thing happens to you when you crash, so it's as if you went back to starting over again.
That makes sense.
Okay. All right. And here's a picture from Gardner's from the article where he shows a possible track movement. And again, I really do look forward. And so essentially you could draw any funny shape you liked and decided that that's the track on which you're playing. And again, there's no need to play with just two cars. It probably will get draggy if you do it with a large number of cars, but it would be interesting to try out. Okay, so the next game in today. So today's supposed to be 10 minutes for 3 different games. I don't know how I'm doing on time. Yeah, not too bad, I guess. Okay, so the next game that shows up in this article is actually the game of sim. But before that, let's start out. So he talks about playing on 3, 4, 5 vertices. So let's set this game up with these 4 dots here.
Oh, sorry. I think I saw a few folks joining in when you were midway through describing racetrack. So I thought I'll summarize it in the chat for those who.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I'm also happy to go over it at the end if anybody.
Sure.
But the nice thing about today is it's 3 separate games. So if you've missed the first 10 minutes, it's all right. It's not related to the next game in the sequence.
Oh, by the way, in racetrack, what's the win condition? You have to reach a particular.
The first person who gets to the finish line. So it's supposed to be a real track. So here's your. Well, in my previous circular track, the start and the finish are the same line. So if you make an entire loop,
Correct.
I mean, I would suppose you could go as many loops as you like, right? Like a real race, you could say 10 loops around this, or whatever you like,
Right.
Depending on how long you want it to last, I guess.
Okay, that's perfect. Thanks. Yeah.
Okay, so in the next game we're looking at, and I'm hoping now we have some people who might be willing to play with me. But you take turns drawing a line between these dots. All right, and your aim is to not make a monochromatic triangle. So essentially, neither red wants to make a triangle, nor does blue want to make a triangle. The question is, what happens? Does the first player win, the second player win? Perhaps they draw. Is that Neil? Is that you volunteering to play? I saw a red dot.
Sorry, I think I was thinking I could default it, but if somebody else wants to volunteer, I think that would be nicer. Sorry.
Yes, what I could do is maybe I could run us through what the thing I'm trying to. Oh yeah, wonderful. All right. So okay, Neil, do you want to play against Farshan, or does somebody else want to?
Yeah, as before, I'll just give it a minute to see if somebody wants to volunteer. Otherwise, I'm happy to back up, of course.
Yeah, and I mean, what I have done is in case. What happened there? All right, Farshan, start.
Oh, Farshan changed his mind. Okay. Okay, so I suppose I could go next. I don't know if this is a smart thing to do, but yeah. This triangle is not a problem, right?
Yeah, right. So yeah, I should have said that, but only the dots I have drawn here. So this is not. I mean, you could imagine that one of these lines lies above or below the other. So this is not, even though it looks like an intersection on the plane, we're going to imagine this is not a triangle. I don't know, can you see my pen? Or am I just waving wildly without anyone seeing?
No, we can see your pen too. And yes, it's only the triangles across the plots.
Oh dear, it's breaking up.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, so I was just saying that only the triangles formed by the black dots count.
Oh dear, it's my internet apparently. Hold on a second.
Oh, I don't know. I'm guessing. Yeah, it's probably Jyoti's connection because I seem to have lost the ability to annotate. Yeah.
Sorry, I missed some of that, Neil, because I.
Oh, no worries. Can you hear us now?
Yes. Can you hear me too?
Yes. Sounds like you're back. You might have to turn. Oh yeah, no, it's back now. So yeah, sure. Sorry, I think I lost the ability to annotate for a second, but it's back now.
I went offline for a second.
Right. So I think yeah. So no, I was just repeating what you said, that the triangles go between the black dots that are already placed, the initial ones.
Yeah. So now the question is there any sort of a winning strategy? Like, okay, so let's, oopsie. Okay, so I made a sample game in which red does seem to have won, even though you both played to a draw. I think that was when I left, it was all the vertices had shown up and nobody had won, right? So you know that there is a draw in coloring. So how many lines can I draw? So can I repeat once? When does one win? Okay, so you would, okay, so it's in the board in front of you. Red would have lost the game. So a win is when you do not have to make a triangle of your color. Okay, so in the game here, these 3 lines connect the vertices to form a triangle. So red has yeah, okay, Neil has done that more succinctly than I was doing. But yeah, so your aim is to not make a triangle of your color. I hope that helps. Yeah. All right, great. All right, so let's see whether we can extract some information. Okay, so the first thing I want to say is that the first player has a strategy to prevent themselves from losing. So look at let me run through that sample game again. Okay, so this is what ended up happening. Blue was the first player. As you can see, blue has not lost this game because blue managed to end up with something like that, which is not a loss. I mean, which is, yeah, exactly, which is not a triangle. So the question is, can we say something? Ugh. Okay, so let's go back. I mean, I don't even know. Yeah, okay. So let's. Okay, so how do I know this is always achievable? Because, well, look at the number of lines you're trying to draw. So after blue has played twice and red has played twice, at that stage of the game, there's definitely not a triangle of any color because no one has drawn 3 lines of their color. It isn't possible to have a triangle, right? Because you'd need 3 lines for a triangle. So now the next line that blue draws, no matter how these initial lines were drawn, blue has the option of drawing a line not to produce a triangle. What is 2 for?
I assume they've implicitly labeled the vertices going clockwise, and I think they
So are
suggest.
we doing 1, 2? Yeah, okay. 3, 4.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly correct. So blue would want to draw the line 2, 4. Wonderful. Well, in this setup, in this sort of rigged game, red actually would lose on their next turn because red would have to do this. But it turns out that's just because red didn't play very well in my example game. There's a way for red also to prevent a loss. So broadly speaking, this game on 5 nodes ends in a draw. Okay, so let's see what red should have done. So, well, the first move, copying the opponent, was fine. So the first blue went over here. So if we look back at what happened, blue did that. Red followed suit. Now blue could do anything blue liked. What should red do? I think Neil did this when she played. But what should red think about doing? So if red goes here, as red did before, it's blue's turn. Blue can force them into a loss. But there's something that red can do to prevent this situation. Does anybody have a suggestion for red? Yeah, wonderful. So red completes a triangle on the board with 1 blue and 1 red line, which again, red can always do. And now there's no way for blue to force them into making a triangle. The game proceeds to a draw. Okay, so now let's get to the game we actually were supposed to be talking about, which is the game of sim. So now this is on 6 vertices, and I think while Neil has a playable version, maybe we could just play it out
Yeah, I think we can just annotate here. By the way, with the four vertices, it's just going to say that if it's not going to be a monochromatic triangle, it's always going to be, I think it's always going to be two paths of on three edges. So in the draw states, I mean, you can look at the red thing. It's like, yeah, it's that sort of a path, and the blue thing is a more obvious path. So visually, I guess you're always targeting to make those P3s as they were. Yeah. If both of them get parts of length 3, then neither of them have a triangle. So
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
yeah, sorry. Go ahead with your the original game, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
okay.
what happened at 5?
So I opted not to, in the interest of time. I was going to leave 5 as an exercise to think about, but we can't talk about 5. I skipped 5. I skipped 1, 2 because they're trivial. I mean, I did, sorry, skip 2, 3 because they seemed a little boring. I thought I would leave 5 as an exercise for people to think about, and I thought I would jump straight to the 6 version, which is the game of Sim. But of course, we can't talk about 5. Maybe, yeah, so
Fine, yeah.
with 5, it ends up being that there's only, okay, maybe, can I clean all this away? Hold on. Okay, so if I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think what you actually end up doing, so any drawing position is basically isomorphic to, I want to draw a star, help. Okay, so let me draw the outside first. Yeah, of course, that was the outside, so never mind. So let me draw the outside.
Cycle and a star or something. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're going to should get a pentagram inside. Hold on a minute. Can I do that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, something like that. And any drawing position you can turn into this apparently. So here is an example. So there is no monochromatic triangle in here. So the 5 case also ends up in a draw. It's harder to tell. Okay, so with the 6. Oopsie. Okay, so but maybe before that makes any sense, let's try the game on this more complicated grid. Anybody want to take a shot at it? I mean, basically just color in a line. Yeah, wonderful.
These colors are fairly close though. Okay, never mind.
They're a nice pastel look. Mm-hmm. And I think that's it, right? So that is a triangle. Okay, so
I also didn't play till the end in the sense that I think there's at least one missing edge.
all right, but the game terminates as soon as you get a triangle, doesn't it?
That's true. Yeah, that is true. And I mean,
Oh. Oh yeah, I see. There's another one there. Which happened first? I apparently wasn't tracking it.
Okay, I mean, there's a theorem that says that there's always 2 monochromatic.
Monochromatic triangles. And this happened on the same last move. I see.
But we didn't, okay, I mean, doesn't the theorem apply when you have all the edges? I mean, okay, maybe not. All but one is enough.
No. Probably you do require all edges, but the
Yeah,
point
and
is,
made out
it is
two.
not a surprise to find two of them.
Okay, sure.
You will always find two of them. They may not be of the same color though.
Right. Yeah, thanks.
And it's not that they necessarily, so you're saying, Neil, that only once it's complete, not necessarily on the last.
Right, I think you
Oh.
can actually draw these many edges without
I
seeing.
think you can draw 14 without.
Yeah, I think so. So yeah, I mean, it's unavoidable once you have all of them, that's for sure. But before that, I think it's probably not true that it can be guaranteed. Yeah, as in there is a configuration that doesn't
You
have.
can draw 15 lines. Yes.
Sorry, you can draw 15 lines in total, but you can draw 14 of them without producing a triangle. So yes, there would be 15, and whoever said n into n minus 1 by 2, yeah, the NC2. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, and then it's 15 here, so it's not that, so both players don't get an even number of, if this game plays out, the first player is going to have to draw 8 lines over 8, yeah, to the other player's 7. 7 and 8 is 15, yeah. Okay, so here I should have. So these are all the lines, I think. So in the version we played, I think there was just one line. Yeah, okay. Okay, so first of all, let's talk about the idea that sim can't end in a draw. How do you get rid of these, Neil? Did you?
Sorry,
Oops.
give me a second. I'll do that.
Sure.
Oops. Yeah.
Thank you.
Happy good.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know why I switched colors and okay. Anyway, so the first thing we'd like to show is that you can't end in a draw. Okay, so let's look at all the lines that could come out of any one of these dots. Of course, you're drawing a line to all of the other points. So there are 5 lines coming out, and there are 2 colors, right? So, well, let's say you play out up until people take turns or whatever. So, okay, so by the pigeonhole principle, at least one of these. So this last one has to be either red or blue. You can't color 5 lines without having at least 3 of them have the same color. All right. Okay. Anyway, so let's say for a minute that line was red. So now let's continue. So now let's look at the other lines that could connect these dots. There are 2 possibilities. Either none of these is red. So if I make any one of these red, so let's say this was red, well, here's a triangle here. Okay. The same sort of thing if any one of the other ones. So if it was that one, well, now you have this triangle here. So drawing any one in red causes a red triangle. Well, the other possibility is that all of them are blue. Well, if they're all blue, well, that itself would form a blue triangle. So there's no way for one party to finish all. So either if this game plays out, there's no way not to have a monochromatic triangle. So you can't end in a draw. And then the question that you could perhaps think about is is there a way to make it play till the last turn? So can you find a coloring so that after 14 moves, there's not a blue triangle and there's not a red triangle? Okay, so that I will leave you with that. And all right, we will go to the last game of the day. And then the other game in this article is Chomp. Chomp is essentially, maybe this should have been a different color. This is supposed to be a bar of chocolate, say. And your aim is to not eat this one here is poison. You do not want to eat it. And if you pick any, so supposing I were to decide to eat this, this piece here, what I end up doing is I break off this whole portion here. So anything to the right or above the piece that I've chosen to take is mine. So this piece of the chocolate bar has now vanished. And players take turns breaking off a part of the bar, and whoever ends up having to eat the square loses the game. Are the rules kind of clear? We will set up a sample game and look at it just a second. Okay. All right. So let's start by looking at a square bar of chocolate. Would anybody like to have a shot at removing? So again, the rules are you pick one of the squares, remove anything that's to the right or above that square, and then it's the next player's turn. Okay, wonderful. So that would remove what? Well, that would remove. Can I draw a shape? I don't think so.
I can try.
You can try?
Mhm.
Yeah, thanks. All right. So all of that is gone. Does anybody in another color want to respond to that? Yeah, thanks. Okay, so that means.
Yeah, I can do the shape part if you want to.
Thank you. And unfortunately, Bhakta eats the poison piece. Okay, so let's see if we can make any. All right, so that was exactly right, Darshan. So on a square grid, what you want to think about is leaving. Okay, so I don't know why, but apparently I'm going to do this upside down. I should have started. Okay, so supposing the whole bar consisted only of the poison chocolate, first player would have to eat it, would lose the game. But supposing you were to start with a long row of this whole chocolate business. All right, anyway, so supposing you were to have this long row and the leftmost was a piece you do not want to be left with, then what the first player could do would be to take this, say, removing everything to the right and leaving the second player with the piece they don't want. What about if it was a 2 by as many as you like grid? What would the response here look like? Yeah, so with this square, remember what happened was you removed this little square in here, leaving, oh no, this was never a square. Oops. All right. Okay, I could not have made this claim. I would have to think a little bit more carefully, huh?
No, that's okay. We want to imagine an extra column or
Yeah, no. So apparently I saw this to be a square and was very cheerful when I copied and pasted from my previous. Yeah, anyway. So apparently I counted wrong. What I was intending to have here. I think also the fact that my grid sizes, because I think I took this chocolate analogy a little too far and didn't draw. Yeah, that also works. So either chop off the top row or add in a column on the right. Well, anyway, so let's do this. Let's talk about it systematically. Let's come back to the square in just a second. So if it was a 2 by as many as you like grid, what could the first player do to ensure a win? Is there something that the first player could do Interesting. So if that, what would happen? Well, you'd lose all of this, right? At which point the second player would take this, and purple would have to eat this, losing the game. Okay, so maybe we have to think of a different way to start out. So there is a first player strategy, but all I'm saying is it is not to go here. What else could I think of? And again, think about what you're aiming to do is to try to get, so I don't know where I put the square. I had a square. I think I took it out. Okay, let me draw one in. So supposing we were working, yikes. Supposing this was the whole entire.
In the 2 by 2 rows chocolate, if I mark in the bottom third one,
Why don't you go ahead and do it? Let's see. So I can't,
then
yes.
the square will be left, and then the one who starts the game will be able to be nice.
Could you point to the square? Could you put an X in the square you're thinking of?
Bottom, from the bottom, from the red to third one. One,
Yeah.
just that one. Yeah, here. Here.
Okay, so then what would happen is you'd lose all
The
of
square will be left. Yeah, the square will be left. And
Alright,
now
so-
wherever the second player plays, I will have a chance to be nice if I
so
start.
supposing the second player went here.
Yeah.
So what would you do now?
No, then I will lose. Right.
Yeah, so yeah, which is yeah, so then of course red goes there.
And yeah, that's
Okay, so yes,
Okay.
not quite, but there still is. So okay, anything else? Does anybody else want to take a shot? So we've decided this isn't a good place to go. That's not a good place to go.
okay.
All right, nice. Okay, what happens then? What should the response to that be? Position right above it. Okay, so hold on a minute before Bhakta, I think hold that thought for just a second. Let me just respond to Saad's question. Right above the poison, one up and above the poison square. So are you saying here?
Yeah. Though I was actually thinking of one above and one to the right.
One
So just
above,
diagonally from the poison square.
poison square. So you want to go here.
Yeah.
Now, if you did that, all of that would go away, right? So the second player would then maybe take this. You would take this. And yeah, the second player would end up having to do that. And that would be exactly the same as, so if you, let's look at what Bhakta wanted as well.
Would
Alright.
you take that?
Sorry.
No, so why would why would the second player take?
What
the-
else? It's okay. So hold on a minute. So once you play here,
Mhm.
then this whole bit is lost. Oh no, wait. Yeah, that's true. The second player, should go.
I think what Boris is doing.
Yeah, exactly. Second player should go there.
Yeah, and now it's a second player win, isn't it?
Correct. And now, well, what could the first player do? It's either this or that, but they're symmetric. So whatever it is, there's an option to mirror it. So if the first player goes here, say, the second player goes there, and the first player would have to take the poison square. Okay, so so Bhakta, could you bring back your guess and let's see if we can play that out. Wonderful. All right, so Would any second player like to? So okay, so now what's happened is only that square's gone away. So it's just this piece gone. All right. Does anybody want to try to respond to that? Interesting. Okay. All right. I would need to read that. Sorry. It's blue's turn, isn't it? Okay. Isn't that already gone? Well, this is true. Hold on. Yeah, back up. Hold on. Yeah, that's already gone. So maybe we should, okay, sorry. Could we rewind a little bit? Because yes, this is true. So the first play was okay. So Bhakta went on the top right corner. Borishan responds by playing right below. After which, what happened next? I was trying to read the chat right there and lost the rest of this. Bhakta plays here. So hold on, let me just mark off what's gone now. So if Bhakta plays here, all that is gone. So above and to the right. All right. Well, okay. So here's where we are. Okay, and in some ways, isn't this exactly symmetric to where you started out? I don't know what happened in between. We'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, but that's your move again.
What if we put a cross just above the poison piece?
Just above the first piece. Okay, so we, if you put a, if you did it, okay, just hold on a moment. Okay, just hold that thought.
Okay.
So what happened here is blue gets to respond by going here, and purple had to eat the poison piece. Okay, so let's take those questions one at a time. So if you had led by playing here, this is what I understood from the question. That was
The whole row will be catching.
right? Yeah, exactly. So then you would be back to this situation, wouldn't you?
Exact situation, and then there is a chance to win.
No, now you've effectively made the second player the first player in this. So you've taken away the whole of the top row, and the
Yeah.
second player is now the first player for a board that looks like this.
Okay. So he will have all chances.
That's
to win.
it.
So it
So
means
that would have
so
been
this is not a wise way to play.
no. And if you look at what just happened, it's for the first time you had a first player win because now blue managed to successfully get purple to take the red square. Okay, so guys, wait, so we started off here.
Yeah.
So this was play 1, this was play 2. After which, play 3 was this, right? Well, play 3 was to go here. But now you're back in a situation where you've got a board that basically looks like your starting board. So effectively, you've made, so what was this? The first player, second player. This was what the first player did. Now on a board that basically looks the same, where we've sort of eliminated, we've said, well, you can't play right on top of the poison square. You can't play right to the poison square. You can't play. So we walked through the cases. So doing this kind of set you back a little, didn't it? Isn't that already gone? Was that now? Or was that before? Sorry. I think perhaps
No,
I've...
that,
Mm.
no, yeah. it's before.
Yeah, all right. So, and then of course the second player responded with this, which also took the board to something that looked like. So perhaps I don't know if you guys have seeing any patterns, but maybe we try that again. All right. So Bhakta, do you want to start with your original first move? And I don't know how to get rid of these, so I'm going to leave anything that's... That was a good move, that first starting move. But think about the symmetry you're trying to retain as you play. Huh? Yeah, you get to take one move. All right. And of course, only that one square has gone away. Yeah, thanks, Neil. I think nobody's playing against Bhakta because there's perhaps a chance that they're going to have to eat a poison square. Is the silence to say that nobody can think of a response to this? Is it that, can we argue that maybe, so whatever the second player may do, so what are the second player's options? Well, they could play down here. They could play, yeah, all right, Vansh, go ahead. Well, if you were to do that, yeah, nothing's lost. All right, so what should Bhakta do in response? So I don't know whether if you, I mean, yes, of course, the blue is going to win in this version, but perhaps we can argue. Maybe I will leave this as an exercise to argue that perhaps when, yeah, so all that's got me. Hold on a minute. So yeah, I wanted to make some sort of an argument. So when you play here, yeah, thanks. So if you were to play here, is there a response? Okay, so let's see who did that. Let me get rid of my color so I can see. Okay, so blue went here. So just before, so can we back up before red did this? Before red did that. Is there a way to, blue went there? So is it now necessary, at this stage, is it a guarantee that blue would win? So if blue were to jump, so it's okay. So let's consider the situation where blue keeps milking this strategy of theirs. So, okay, so after, okay, so what's gone on is that all of this went away. All right, so now is there anything red could do? So what if red played here instead? Right, instead of playing right next to the poison square, if red were to do that, now it would look like this, and it would be blue, red, and blue would be forced to take this. Right? So maybe jumping right out here was a risky thing to do. And I don't know, I think, yeah, I was thinking that perhaps the pattern would jump out, but considering that it doesn't seem to have done, I think I'd like you guys to go play with this and think about it a little more rather than have me spoil it. I think we've said enough that maybe if you sit with it a little So far what we figured out is that if you start out by playing here or here or here, it's pretty much bad news, right? I'm going to tell you that if the first player starts here, they do have a winning strategy. And I'd like you to maybe think about figuring out what that strategy should be. Okay. I want to leave you with something that's really pretty. So let's just do that before.
Can I clear out the annotations then?
Yeah, yes, exactly. But going one by one, well, you can look at what the response to that was, which was to go here. Now what? So I'd leave you to think about this, to do the cases and think about, yes, I got one square at a time, but it no longer looks the same, right? So it's how do you reduce it to make sure that you're able to follow through. So after you played top right, red played right next to you up here, reducing the board to something like that. So what do you do then? So you don't want to bring it back to the same shape and leave it so that the other party is the first player. So you have to think a little bit about how to respond to the second player's, playing right next to you here. Oh no, the board is actually like that. Okay.
Just to be sure, in terms of homework, are you making an explicit claim about the first player having a winning strategy, or is that
On this 2x(n) grid, I believe it is true.
okay? All right. So the question,
Not in general, yeah.
right. The question is to make it that explicit. Okay.
Yeah, well, actually, sorry. I am not going to just claim it. I'm going to prove it in the next slide. Oops. So that even though you may not know what's okay, so in general, even though there exists a winning strategy, it may not be possible for me to explicitly spell it out the way I would be able to for this 2x(n) grid. With the 2x(n) grid, you can actually argue how to respond to the second player's all the options the second player has. So there you can actually explicitly work out a first player strategy. But even when you can't, what you can claim is that the first player wins jump. Okay, so let's say that you have some arbitrary board. So I'm not even working with the square boards or the 2x(n) or the single row, nothing, just some m/n board. And let's say that the first player takes this top. Oh dear, it's not top left, it should be top right. Oh, top right. Yeah, I'm not going to try to write all of right. Yeah, so anyway, so the shaded square has been removed. So there are two possibilities. Either that's a winning move. Okay, look, like this game can't tie, right? It's finite, and someone's got to take the last piece. So someone ends up eating the poison chocolate. There's no option for a draw. So it's either the first player is going to win or the second player is going to win. Now, when you take this top right piece, either this is the beginning of a first player winning strategy, or perhaps this was a losing move. All right. So if it's a winning strategy, it's all sorted. First player's won. Suppose not. Supposing this is the beginning of a losing strategy, the second player has to respond somewhere, taking a bigger bite. So think about no matter where the second player goes, it is a move that would have been. So it's going to remove all of this. And it's an option that the first player had access to, right? Which means that the first player could have started by taking that bite right there. So either by taking this top right square or by, taking whatever the second player's winning response was, the first player could have won the game. So even though it's hard to figure out explicitly what a first player strategy is on this general m/n board, you can say that there is some way for the first player to win this game. Now let me show you a game that's really sweet and is apparently the same exact game. So what's going on here is pick a number, any number. Here it's 432. Now prime factorize it. So this is 2 to the power of 4 times 3 to the power of 3. Try it out. And then so this 4 and 3 is going to give you a size of a board. And what you do is that you fill the board in this fashion. So you keep dividing by 3 to go this way till you get something that's just a factor of 2 right here. And in the same way, you go the other direction, keeping on dividing by 3, keeping on dividing by 2 until you get to a number that only has 3's in it, all right? That's a power of 3. I mean, 2 and 3 in this specific example, but whatever the prime factorization is. Now, if you look at this diagonal, those are all a combination. So it's 432 divided by 6 going this way. Once you get to this top row, everything is just a factor of 2. Once you get to this extreme column, everything's a factor only of 3. And this is exactly playing chomp. So the way you're going to play this game is to play on any square of the board, taking that number and all its factors. So 36 and all of its factors goes away. Keep playing until someone is forced to take the number. And had this had more than 2, so if this had say 3 factors, now I would have had to play a 3D version of chomp. So it was 2 by 3, but 2 times 3 times 5. I mean, what does this mean? Yeah, so if it was 2160, say, then I would have had to play this on a 3D version. So you can imagine this is a nice play, another apparently different looking, but exactly the same game. Yeah, okay, so that's where I wanted to leave it. Okay, cool. 1, yeah. I think maybe we can turn the stream off at this point, Neil. If anybody...
Yeah, I'm just going to check if I don't think we missed anything in the chat. I think we had, yeah, this idea that we probably want to take offline about a strategy, presumably for SIM. I think.
Sorry.
Yeah, there was this earlier comment in the chat, but I haven't really followed what the winning strategies by Agnivo, I think. And yeah, so I think I was just requesting that we can take that discussion offline, maybe.
Yeah, all right. Maybe we stop and then perhaps you can
So what happened to game 1?
racetrack?
Yeah, so we defined the rules, but we didn't say anything about it. At least I missed something.
The thing about, no, we didn't talk about it because in terms of analysis, I don't know. Okay, let's go back and look at it. Well, it would really depend. I don't know if there's something, if we came up with an interesting track, whether there's something about the topology of the track or something that could make us, I don't know that you can. So this was just a fun rule set in this article. I don't know if there's a way in general to say anything more about it. Perhaps if we picked a very simple kind of track, we could perhaps make some arguments. Maybe, I mean, I think the reason it's funny shaped like this, maybe it also made sense for me to try to, turn out and maybe play in this clockwise direction. So I don't know whether the amount of space left to you, like for instance, if you look at this track, it's clearly not symmetric. There's a lot of space up here, very little space up here. So it's a very narrow board.
So there's no theorem or something more.
I don't think that there's any. I don't know whether if we were to define a smaller, cleaner little piece of it, I wonder whether it would be amenable to some kind of analysis. But in this general case, I don't think so, because it must depend on, the shape of this track a little bit as well, right?
Yes, and maybe for, like you said, special tracks,
Yeah, it might be fun to think about, like, some, I guess straight tracks would
But
be
then,
the,
what is the insight from this game? Well, I mean, apart from describing the rules, but was
uh,
there any insight at all?
no, there was really not. But so okay, so Gardner in his article, let's just do this. Let's just stop sharing this and maybe look at the article for a minute. And oops. Yeah, so there is nothing in the article. I don't know that. I think this is, oops, sorry. Probably a little bit too complicated of a game to gain such. Yeah, I mean, it's the game became so popular that authorities made it inaccessible for a week to prevent students from wasting too much time on it. So I don't know that there's any simple analysis.
Okay.
Yeah, but again, even with sort of, you can force all sorts of conditions onto it. And then I don't know if we could make some.
Yeah, I think all of these comments look like adaptations of the rule set.
Yeah, these are all just, yeah, right. But I was trying to see whether there's anything on a smaller grid, say, but there doesn't seem to be.
Yeah, maybe, there's a comment in the chat suggesting that if you made a proper circle with a particular radius, maybe if the racetrack was precisely two concentric circles. I was thinking even simpler, if you could have a so-called track, which is just like a square or something. Would that be easy? I mean, of course, maybe you still need a clear pathway, so I don't know if a square would make sense. But I was thinking that they're racing to reach a particular location in the grid.
So then I can imagine that perhaps you could say something, because the person with the shorter, so the first player, if they play on the inside of the loop, right? I don't know whether they would always, so whatever the second player were to do, of course, the second player can cross over.
They get in the way, even if they don't win. I mean, I don't know.
But maybe we should still look at something simple and see what happens.
Yeah, it's just a nice prompt to sort of think about more.
Yeah.
The other thing that I wanted to maybe just quickly emphasize is that the argument showing an existential first player strategy for Chomp is, I think, really magical. Because it generally feels like, well, wouldn't this apply to any game? Like, if the second player can win, then the first player can just take their strategy and apply it. And therefore, the second player can't win. And like, how abstractly powerful is the first mover advantage? So I think it's probably a good exercise to try this argument on a variety of games and see examples where it actually doesn't work. Like, if you know of a game where there is a second player win, try to, I think it's a good, at least for me, it was a good exercise to
start with it may be just a nimpile that doesn't work, that is a second player win, right?
Let's just play out the whole argument and see where you get stuck with it. I think that's it. That was useful for me, because otherwise it just feels so. Even here, I mean, I think it's kind of like the idea of the first player taking that corner piece. I think is a really crucial part of the argument that actually makes it work. But I mean, having said it, it looks simple, but it's just
I think it's also because that move is subsumed by so if we did
that makes so I think it makes the stolen strategy feasible, because otherwise it's conceivable that like the second player does something like, yes, I don't know. I mean, strategies are formally functions, right? So typically where you would get stuck with a strategy stealing argument is that the second player strategy demands you to do something which you actually can't execute because of that extra move that you've made in the beginning. So what you intuitively have to argue that is that the first move is something that does no damage, and therefore any second player strategy is actually feasible to execute. And I mean, I think in this game it's genuinely easy to argue, but I think there can be certainties with more complex rules. It's good to watch out for because again, this is just like my personal experience with this
Yeah,
argument.
yes, you're right.
First time I saw it, I was like, we can just do this with any. I mean, yeah, maybe yeah, that's just me being very silly, but I
No,
think
no,
it's
I agree with you. It is just, yeah, I thought it'd be a little harder to do this with Hex, but so far we've done it only with things where it felt intuitively not too unreasonable. Yeah, we are going to extend it and then be careful.
it's just yeah, I think just highlighting a potential subtlety that may not have been. Yeah, it's a really cool style of argument, of course. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, no, it does. Yeah. I mean, of course, it says nothing about how you do it.
Yeah, it's not constructive at all. This is true. I don't know when I wanted to say something and I just kept talking through when you unmuted. So sorry.
Oh, as Jyoti pointed out, this works only. I think the game is like you're on some sort of a lattice and you're walking down the lattice. It's an inclusion lattice. And the first move that you made is actually, there's no other choice. It is essentially the unique maximum in the lattice.
Right.
So no matter what other move the opponent makes, it has to have this unique maximum sitting on top. Yeah, so
Correct.
that probably is the reason why.
That is the argument. That is essentially the argument. I mean, yeah, that's true. The fact that that move exists is, I think, what drives the argument in this case. I don't know if it extends like when Jyoti was talking about the other game where you can do a 3D version. Maybe a good exercise to check if this works again. It probably is the same thing. But yeah, I would probably
Too, like when it says you'd probably like if it's top right,
Yeah.
I don't know what it is now, top
Right,
west.
because you can probably move only towards the origin in one direction. So there's probably a unique maximum in one.
Exactly. So you go to the limit of whatever, so that nothing can be that there's no way to play,
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I'm like very tempted to see if we can design a game that sounds super similar and where this doesn't work. Just to
just to, yeah, that would be fun. So let's add it to the list of things we'd like to do.
yes, that's turning out to be a fun, but yes, we'll add it, all right. Yeah. Cool. All right. So I suppose, okay, so this was supposedly a drawing strategy. Yeah, thanks, Agniva. What we will do is we'll take this discussion offline, perhaps in the interest of time. But if you could, may I have a copy of it? If you could post it in the comment box on the page for today's meetup, then we'll continue the conversation then. Okay, well, thank you very much. That's awesome. Okay, then, so I suppose, yeah, we're now a few minutes over the hour, I think, thanks to some of my blabbering at the end. Sorry. So maybe this is a good place
No,
to.
thank you, Nick. No, that was great.
Awesome. All right. So we're going to stop the live stream here and see you tomorrow, same time and same link. Thanks very much, everyone. Good night.